Sadhguru, don't you think population explosion, like China was also facing a similar problem a few years ago, and they have tackled it so well, and with us...
Don't say well, they've handled it. Because you should know in China,
I don't know.
They were burying live children. Second child born, live children were just being buried in the hospitals. When that video was taken and it went viral around the world, they changed that to giving iodine injections to the brains of healthy children, second child. So you don't have the stomach nor the heart to do anything like that, so don't compare to China. But do we have to control our population? Absolutely.
So at least there should be tax on the third child?
What is that?
At least there should be tax on the third child, because they're using roads and river water which you're trying to save, and the oxygen from the trees which I am planting with many other people. So at least two children should be okay, but third one should have tax.
Don't say that, because I'm the fourth among the siblings. I have a big tax sitting on my head. Definitely some incentives have to be done. Right now, when I spoke about this a year ago, there was a lot of controversy in the south. We've been trying to bring this in the villages. A voluntary year of no conception. All we need to do is, because our life expectancy has improved, it's not because an explosion of reproduction has happened. No, that's not true. It is our life expectancy is improving. That means we took our death into our hands, but we are not taking the birth into our hands. We have, just about 50 years ago, an average time when the first child happened to a young woman in this country was somewhere around 16 or 17 years of age. It's moved to about 24 right now, but we need to push this to 35.
Sadhguru, these days, the common discussion which is going on is again about the refugees. And we being celebrities, we get these questions asked, and this is the most conflicting question ever, because as a nation, being a part of this country and knowing that so many of us don't even have access to food, education, electricity, absorbing more people into our population clearly isn't a good idea, but denying those people seems even worse. So what should be, again, where does spirituality comes here? What part does it play? And what happens to inclusiveness when such a thing happens?
You're picking on my yoga definition.
No! No, I clearly know that this is the worst thing to do right now, because they are coming in millions and millions and millions, where our own are starving. So it's like saying that I'll let my own child die, but I'll save the neighbor's one. So, what sort of negotiation is that?
If that was the intent, I would bow down to such people. I will let my own child, but I'll save your child. I will bow down to such people if they exist. But that's not the thing. We are trying to project our inefficiency as compassion. I don't like that. We don't know how to man our borders, but we are talking about compassion. That's not the truth. We're just projecting our inefficiency as some kind of a great value. There's no value to that. So, talking about influx of people from outside, when somebody comes to the nation's door because they are violently persecuted somewhere, we should treat it differently. After all, they are human beings. But for the economic well-being, people are daily porous borders, people are going across here and there. We need to do something about it. If we don't do anything about it, we will be stupid, because you cannot run a nation without knowing how many people and who is in this country. We cannot run a country like that. First of all, we must understand, I am not for nationhood if you ask me. It would be fantastic if we live as one world, but we are nowhere near that possibility, okay? We are nowhere near that possibility. Right now, the best way to address humanity, and the largest segment of humanity that you can address right now, is a nation. So nationhood is right now very important and a practical solution for humanity as a whole. In the making of a nation, one of the most basic ingredients is the sovereignty, or the physical, geographical piece that we call a nation. In this there may be culture, there may be language, there may be religion, there may be everything else, economic, everything is secondary. First and foremost thing is, there is a piece of geography which we call as a nation. Now if you're talking about inclusion, I mean, you're right now talking about India, Bangladesh. Well, you know, we became two nations or three nations. We became two nations in 1947, we became three nations in 71. So some people think we can make ourselves into another 4 or 5 or 6. No, I think we must stop this nonsense now, because people who are talking this do not know the suffering that happened in 1947-48. There are still, I'm sure in this hall there are many people whose parents walked across the border and came at one time. What they have gone through, what they have left behind, the sufferings and the pain, and the nearly 600,000 people who died, and about 2 to 3 million people who migrated from this side and that side. In both sides of the border, after 70 years, second generation of people still are not settled. Many of them are still living like refugees. When this has happened, talking about one more partition is the stupid and the dumbest thing to do. We should not talk about that. Now about the porous borders between India and Bangladesh, well, we have largely sealed India and Pakistan, isn't it? Why? Because they're coming across with guns. Here they're just coming for livelihood. So if they come, we can always, if people come to work, we can give them work permits. They can work here and go back when they want to, as people from Bengal are coming to South India, working for 2-3 months and going back. Similarly, they can also come and go, you can have some kind of a loose structure. But if you just allow people and give them ration cards and identity cards simply without any accounting, this is going to be a disaster. This will lead to all kinds of problems in future. You cannot run a nation without knowing who is in this country. If somebody wants to come into this nation, they must come through the front door. They must ask for immigration and come through the front door. We must have a system for that. We must have a system for that. How can people knock on the country's door and come inside? Not slip in from wherever they want and be wherever they want. That's not going to work. For nobody it's going to work. We have to take steps on that.
It can work for a few politicians.
Unfortunately, nation's interests are being sacrificed for personal ambitions. That is there in this country, what to do?
But it still is a very conflicting thing, because…
See, if you want to be really inclusive, we can make the two countries into one.